talk about the flood and drain gravel beds. We're going to talk about the type of gravels that we use in them, with recommended sizes and types, because it does matter for the size. If you go too small, you can start to have clogging issues, which would make it anaerobic instead of aerobic like you want your system to be. Also, different types of material can affect your water's pH, and also there's certain types of rocks that have a lot more minerals that can become available over time. So first we're going to do is have a walk around and update for the system, and then I'm going to get down into what I use for my system. A plus note too of a flood and drain gravel media bed is for like most commercial aquaponics systems, you want to feed like 60 to 100 milligrams per square meter of grow bed area. But for the flood and drain gravel media bed, you can actually go all the way down to 13 milligrams of fish feed per day per square meter of grow bed area, which is a lot more food efficient. And the reason being is because you can actually mineralize everything. It gets mineralized right there in the tank with the gravel and the worms and all that stuff. So let's do a quick walk around, and then I'll start talking about the gravel. Alright, so today is Monday, November 13th, down here in Mobile, Alabama. I still haven't closed my system yet. I might even just end up leaving it open year-round down here, because it does get below freezing, but it's usually just overnight, and by the end of the day it'll be like 50s on those coldest part of the winter days. We have had a lot of 40-degree nights over the last few weeks, so my system is slowing way down. I'm slowing down on my fish feed rates and everything, but even on those occasional warm blips, the plants are still taking off pretty well. Here's the cup for reference I used in my last video. If you haven't seen it yet, you might want to go check it out and see what the difference was between then and now. I think it's been about 3 weeks or so, maybe 4, since I filmed last. But you can see my plants are starting to take off pretty good. Like this cup pretty much dwarfed like this plant last time. These were all planted on the same time. These are leaf leaves type lettuce. I'm getting ready to harvest, so I figured today would be a good day to make the video. I'm just going to start picking off some of these leaves a little bit at a time, get an extended harvest off of it. But as you can see, like, that's a normal size cup you'd have in most houses. Pretty good reference in size. I did get my strawberry crowns in the mail. I ordered 25 from Amazon. I ended up getting 28. If you're curious who I ordered from, just go ahead and feel free to ask below, and I'll put it in the thing. I'll respond to you, I promise. So I planted a ring of strawberries around this whole bed. Ended up putting several crowns up top up here. These were all dormant when I got them, and as you can see, they're taking off pretty well. And then this is the lettuce. I don't remember if you saw it last time, but it was pretty much baby. It's still baby. It's still got a long ways to go. It's supposed to take from germination date to harvest date, it's supposed to take 60 to 72 days for romaine lettuce, so we're like a month into it. I don't know if these ones up top will be able to handle that. They might fall out. They're starting to fall over, as you can see from this one on the end. The broccoli I had just put in here last time. It's gotten over its shock phase, and it's starting to put on leaves now. It's starting to get shaded out pretty well by this dino kale. It's starting to take off. But also the sun's getting lower in the sky over here, so looks like I might have some evergreen trees from where the sun rises first in the morning, and then obviously the house is here, so maybe I'll end up moving this farther south from the porch here and farther away from the house. We'll see. I did put it up on bricks. I went and got my car jack and decided to put it up on bricks because those wheels I got, they're not the highest quality wheels, and they're pretty much right at their max weight limit, and they're made out of plastic instead of metal. So I decided that obviously I just want to be able to transport this when it's time to move, so I went ahead and threw it up on bricks, which that was like a $6 upgrade. I'm considering building a frame and having hinges, like a hinge across the bottom on these end pieces, and then getting those little automatic opening vents, and it'll just like lean open when it gets above 70 degrees in the morning. and that would pull air in from around the tank, from around the cool water, and up into the system. Heat up the water a little bit more during those warm days. The system's doing pretty well. This one KL that was the baby one that was still there, and then the big one that got knocked back, is the big one's now having a hard time catching up with the baby one. Maybe I should pick off some of these leaves in a few minutes. This cool weather should make this kale taste a lot better. I have a few extra strawberry plants I threw on this side too. Should be good. Here in about a year or so, I should start having strawberries hanging over the side. You can see I got my ring of strawberries continuing around here. I'm hoping that I'll have strawberries just hanging over the side all the way around. That'd be sweet. I'm gonna have to trim back that Italian parsley. It's trying to take over my bed. And as you can see, the Swiss chard I have, the leaves are looking a lot better now. I took like 4 bucket loads of water out of there, so probably about 20 gallons. I've done it like twice now. Basically, I'll take some of the water out and then I'll top it back off. And every time I do like a very small partial water change every time I add water. I got my 55-gallon drum. I am using city water in this system. Rainwater would be much nicer, but there are no gutters on my house, so I didn't set up a rainwater system. So I just fill that up with a water hose and let it set for a few days to get the chlorine out of the water, and then I'll adjust the pH before adding it to the tank. My daughter's been breaking off a bunch of the Italian parsley and feed it to the fish. They seem to like it. I did move all my container plants. I don't know if you've seen any of my older videos from my old house. I had a bunch of plants in my old aquaponics system. And believe it or not, these jalapenos, I'm about to get my last harvest off of them. The jalapeno plant and this one over here, these are at the end of their 2nd year right now. So they do need fertilizer. I bet if I wanted to, I can get them going for a 3rd year, but I literally ripped those out of my old aquaponics system and stuck them in a pot this past spring, and they've been really pumping out peppers all year. So I figured it would be like petering or something their 2nd year, but no, they didn't. They really pumped out. And that's even considering that I accidentally broke off most of the branches during the move down here. So they actually bounced back. And then this right here is a baby dwarf black everbearing mulberry and a goji berry plant that I also had as a clone. It's literally in the aquaponics system. I got my first goji berry showing up right here. That's a lot. So I got some goji berries. Here's another dwarf black everbearing mulberry tree. So once these jalapeno plants are done, I'm just going to top it off with some good compost, and then I'll have my little container garden with fruit trees. This fig tree right here. It's got an understory of radishes going. And this is a lemon tree. It's got an understory of oregano. And it's in a little microclimate. Like all the cold air in my area of the world comes in from the northwest. And so that's about that direction right there. So it's in a little microclimate. And between the brick wall and this wall of the aquaponics system, it'll get a little bit warmer during the wintertime. All right, let's start talking about the gravel. Just one more thing. I moved this. Look at all this crud here. The kids were out here playing all day yesterday with the neighbor kids. They really tore this area up, but so I got to clean the porch off today. But I ended up moving my furniture from my front porch to my back. And now the kids have this huge area to stand on in order to observe the fish when I want to. So that's enough room for 4 kids to stand on now. And I could stand on it too, and I'm not messing with that. Alright, let's talk about the gravel. Alright, so I don't know if this wind is picking up on the microphone or not. Excuse me if it is, but basically for my 2 flood and drain gravel beds, I chose to use, I'm still experimenting before I go bigger with aquaponics, which I will be in about 3 years. I'm planning on seriously upgrading my size. For now, I'm just maximizing my my planting skills and all that good stuff, and experimenting still for my second aquaponics system. But the bottom of both beds, let's just start off with a recommended gravel size for the aquaponics gravel. Is recommended size is 3/4 of an inch size gravel. The reason why they always recommend 3/4 of an inch is because you go much smaller, and you're going to start having clogging issues, even if you have worms in there. So it might not have as many clogging issues if you have a pre-filter in there, like a swirl filter or something, but that's also extra labor and stuff on your part. I'm trying to go for minimized work and maximized output, so I'm trying to go minimal amount of fish, no filtering, and then minimal amount of work in the future. Like, I don't want to have to clean out my gravel every couple of years or anything either, so I'm not going to do a swirl filter, just straight up gravel. Yeah, so I went minimal amount of fish too. Alright, so right now I just tested my water like 2 days ago, and my nitrates are still hovering around, even with this cooler weather and the fish not eating as much, it's still hovering around like 40 to 80 parts per million, which is pretty good for lettuce. In the gravel I used in both of the beds, like this bed over here on the right that I have hydroton clay pebbles, and this one over here I have that river stone up top. Both of them I have scoria or lava rock, depending on what part of the world you're from. As you can see, this stuff has some serious surface area, even though it's way above 3/4 of an inch in size. There's a massive surface area in there, and there's also like 30 or 40 different types of mineral that is found in this lava rock. If you've ever seen those videos online of people growing like 90-pound heads of cabbage in Alaska and stuff, it's because the soil up there is so rich. And there's also those long daylights, but if you have a massive mineral base, it helps plants grow to their maximum potential. And so this is all the surface area in here. You're going to have your little minimal or micro anaerobic zones that are going to form inside of the stone, because it's going to fill up with water, and then you're going to have all those little tiny holes start to clog up over time, and that'll help anaerobic bacteria form in those little tiny pockets can actually mineralize the contents of the stone and break down the stone over time, adding nutrition to your system. So the bed on the right I went 1/3 full with lava stone, and then the bed on the left I went 2/3 full with it. The reason why I put it on the bottom is, for one, this stuff will like really cut your hands up if you're trying to dig in it, and the roots will hold on to it really well. But also it's because of the water flow around it. Like there's such huge gaps in between the stones when you got these together that it's pretty much never ever going to create a dead zone around all the stones. All the water just flushes. It's like it flushes it out every time. You might get a little bit of a layer built up on the bottom, but it's pretty good water flow. So it's going to help keep those dead stones from forming and make your system a lot more lower maintenance. It's also pH neutral, so it's not going to affect your pH. It's not going to raise it or lower it. When you're trying to figure out what kind of, I'm all about going cheap, so therefore I love gravel. But I did get these hydroton clay pebbles. They're actually rejects that I got for extreme discount on Amazon. So you can get them for a better price, but still way more pricey than regular gravel. For these little river stones, these are about 3/4 inch in size for the most part. There's some that are a lot smaller and some that are a lot bigger, but for the most part they're probably averaging out around 3/4 of an inch, about that recommended size. That's another thing too, is the reason why they recommend a 3/4 of an inch size is for surface area. You need to have surface area for the bacteria colonies to form sufficient enough to handle the amount of ammonia, nitrites, and nitrates that the fish produce. You have one type of bacteria that's going to turn the ammonia into nitrites, and you're going to have another type of bacteria turn the nitrites into nitrates, which is plant available nitrogen. So 3/4 of an inch, just remember that. And then you always want to do, if you're trying regular gravel stuff, always take large samples. My local Lowe's had actual, like a little display area that had all the different gravels poured into little pockets where you can actually take some home with you. And so I grabbed a handful of the ones I liked, brought them home and did a vinegar test, and the ones that passed, which this one is one of them, it passed the vinegar test. Even if it does have a little bit of limestone and that stuff in there, it's not much, because none of them of that large handful I grabbed had any in there. So it's not going to affect my water pH. You want to make sure you keep things like limestone out because they will raise your pH and you'll have issues. The fish will like it, but the plants won't. Alright, so as far as the beds go, when I was setting up the plumbing for them, I also try to set it up to where I can minimize the dead zones or potential for dead zones to form. Which you will, like if you have a tomato plant or something that's a long-lived, heavy rooting plant, you can sometimes have dead zones start to form. But to minimize it and reduce maintenance over time, I actually set up my input water flow and my drain on the opposite corners of the bed. So I knew I wanted the drains to be over there where I could get them easy. So if I do close this off during winter time, but my input flow is on the opposite sides of the beds. And then I will say this, when I first had set the system up, within like 2 months, the water, this right here is all clogged up with old fish food and poo, and it was starting to like, the water would travel across it and then sink in. And I went to Walmart and got some red worms to add to the bed. And within like a day, literally a day, I came outside. I put them right here on top of it so they knew where it was at. And within a day, they had already freed up the flow, and I've never seen it do it since. So they were starting to get clogged up right here near the drain, or the input. And those worms just straight up tackled it real quick. They were hungry though. Who knows how long they had been in the container at the store. They were not dinner for some other fish. They're gonna help me out. And it's pretty cheap that way too compared to ordering in the mail, and you don't need that many for the system. Like I got 2 containers of red worms for these 2 beds, 1 each, and that was way more than I needed. I could have just gotten 1. They will reproduce, they will make babies in here. In fact, the last time I took some lettuce and stuff out of here, the last set of plants I took out of here, the red worms were already in the root balls, and there were some babies in there too already. So this right here is my romaine lettuce over here on this side. It's actually starting to bolt, as you can see, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that this morning. That romaine lettuce is actually planted way before the romaine lettuce up top there, so it's already at its bolting age. Alright, so I'll go ahead and show you my lettuce harvest. I'm starting to grab some out here. Here's my other bowl. Got a little kale and Swiss chard. Another bowl of lettuce, and started pulling out this romaine lettuce up here. Here's one of the root balls I just pulled out. You can see there's a little red worm in there. This one's actually really small, so it did not come with the red worms that I got from Walmart. But it's keeping the root balls clean. Let's see what's in this root ball here. This is a good thing about the clay hydroton. Nope, don't see any worms in that patch. Run free, little guy. I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these little guys out of here. This is one of the broccolis. It's kind of buried in the shade, but it's getting some good growth on it. It's coming out. This other broccoli plant back here actually had all its leaves eaten off of it, but it'll bounce back, it looks like. Just carefully not. Just gotta be careful not to throw hydroton everywhere. This is the bonus of the hydroton. It's easy to pull everything up. So you can see there's good healthy roots and all this stuff. The plant's starting to bolt, a little bit older, but some good leaves on there. It's been cooler too, so it won't be bitter. Alright, so I'm going to go inside and clean up this lettuce. Got a pretty good little harvest, I guess, for such a small space. It's only been about 3 weeks since I planted this stuff out. It's looking pretty good. Be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to update in about another 3 or 4 weeks. Alright, this is the next day after the harvest. You can see that. There's just bare stems left in here. I took all the leaves that were still decently good, but not quite worth ripping the green off of. I put them in here, feed the fish, and they loved eating the kale and lettuce apparently, so there's just stems left. Sorry, my lens in my camera broke, so I'm having to hold it open with that finger. But looks like that's a good way to recycle. Actually, I just got some of the stems out. You can see they've been pretty well stripped. Those were those long Lacinato kale or dino kale leaves. These leaves right here are actually parsley, so I think my kids have been throwing those in there. So it looks like they ate every bit of the stuff I threw in there yesterday. Alright, so subscribe, stay tuned for more updates. I think next video I'm going to talk about fish feed rates, fish feed types, fish stocking densities, all that good stuff. And I'll probably go ahead and talk about determining the amount of water fish tank size you want, and different types of aquaponics designs in the future. Next time I'll just talk about fish feed, fish rates, and where I get my fish feed from, and things to consider while you're doing that. Subscribe to stay tuned.